Hello there, YouTube. What's going on? My name is Larry. We're going to talk just a little bit about electronic cigarette basics today. Apologize, I've got a pretty bad cold, but it's pretty simple information, so we should be able to rip right through it. Electronic cigarettes usually always consist of two basic parts. You've got a battery, then a tank, which in the tank there's also a coil and a wick. We'll get to that in a second, but essentially that's what actually atomizes the e-juice. The tank's purpose is just to hold it. The battery provides electricity. Obviously, it's stored, usually rechargeable. Provides electricity through a connection here to the actual coil assembly, which sits inside the tank. In this case, there's your connection. It's a standardized size, and this one called the 510. But your tank and battery are your two general parts. This is where the electricity is stored. This is where the e-juice is stored. There are several different styles of all of these, but they all fall under the same principle. Here's another example. This is called the MVP 2.0, and this is another tank. This is called the Kanger EVOD. Connection just screws right on there and finishes the contact, basically makes an electrical path from the battery through the coil, and the wick assembly is what brings the e-juice into the coil. So then when you press your firing button, essentially you're just completing the circuit, allowing the electricity to heat up that coil, which atomizes the e-juice in the wick. And that's what provides your vapor. Ta-da! So they're all pretty universal once you get the connection sizes standardized, which in this case, like it says, called 510. As far as I know, that is the most common size and which most starter kits should be. But once you get couple devices, and you can start to put them together. But again, you've got the same two pieces here. You've got a battery and a tank where your e-juice is stored. Oops, does help to turn it on. And a lot of these will have safety features. In this case, it has a lock on the firing button, so if I hit it 5 times real fast, it's actually going to lock that button, so now I can actually put it in my pocket or purse or whatever, and I'm not going to fire it. So they usually have some intelligence even on the simplest. These are called stick batteries by a lot of people, and they'll vary a little bit in size and length, diameter. That'll just store more or less electricity, which give you a longer run time between charges. So that's the gist of an electronic cigarette. You've got a battery and you've got a tank. And like I said, the tanks come in a couple different varieties. I'll grab 2 clear ones here just so they're easier to see. This is called the Vision Victory. It's a bottom coil clearmizer, and what that really means is the coil's down here underneath the e-juice. They use some little channels and are able to bring the juice up to the coil right down there in the bottom. The advantages of that is you can basically run a lot of juice through it without drying them out. So they're a pretty good style, but bottom coil, basically the coil sits down underneath the juice. Then the kind of the original style, or one of the more common even today, is called the top coil. And then in this case, it actually brings it up wicks to the coil up at the top. Now I don't have any e-juice in here, but you just see a level of liquid. Then the wicks bring it up to that coil. So the coil is actually above the juice. So that's where it gets its name, top coil. Picking which one's better is a very personal choice. A lot of people tend to even bounce back and forth, and each manufacturer will have its own nuances and subtleties and flavor and throat hit and things like that. But these are the 2 general principles behind any tank that you're going to see out there. You're going to have a bottom coil or a top coil, and then both of which will be driven by your standard battery, which comes in a whole bunch of different shapes and sizes and capacities, but all basically do the same thing: provide electricity to your coil to vaporize the e-juice. So that's the gist of an electronic cigarette. Well, the other thing I want to show you real quick is the charger. They usually look something like this. You have kind of a strange little screw-on connection for your stick batteries. Those essentially where your tank goes, that connection there. Once the battery goes dead, you essentially unscrew your tank and screw your charger over that same end. So you get something like this. Now that other end is a normal USB, but I wouldn't recommend you plug it into any kind of a computer or laptop. It just draws a lot of electricity because it is a rechargeable battery, and so they tell us that that's a little too much power, that you're better off using 110 volt wall outlet phone chargers, or a good example were in your car. That provides a lot of power flow, so those work fine. And they have a little light on them to let you know when they're all charged up. It'll start off, it'll turn red. Then once the battery's charged up, it'll turn green. A lot of the newer ones have a connection down on the bottom called the pass-through, so you can actually plug it in with a micro USB or a standard connection and use it while it's charging. The older, different style, the ones where they screw on the top, obviously that's where your tank goes, so you can't in that case. But the charging time's on them pretty quick, so a lot of people leave them overnight. I don't recommend that you leave an unattended battery charging anytime. It's just not a great idea. But once you get them charged up, they'll usually run at least the bulk of the day. It kind of depends on how much you use it. And like I said, they vary by capacity. But that's what this guy is for. It's your charger. So hopefully that answers any questions. But thanks again and have a great day. Happy vaping.